Hi, this is Lindsay, and I'm going to be showing you how to group some of your files that you currently have on your desktop into a folder to better organize the files that you have to make them easier to find. So here I've started out with just a group of files that I currently have on my desktop, and if you're like me, before I learned how to group these into folders, my desktop would always be cluttered, or my documents would always be cluttered with many different files just hanging out, and I always was having to look through them to find what I was looking for. And as we learn today how to group them into folders, it will help us be able to better find the documents that we're looking for and get them at our fingertips as quickly as possible. So the first thing that I want to do is look for some sort of a trend in the files that I have on my desktop to see if there is some sort of a topic that we can group them by. So I'm taking a look at this grouping over here, and I'm noticing that I've got a holiday party note to parents, a weekly parent newsletter, and a parent conference note. So that kind of looks like to me it would go with maybe a parent communication folder. So I'm simply going to place my cursor on my desktop, and I'm going to use the right button on my mouse to click, and it will give me several options here. And if I come down to where it says new, and then up to the top here it says folder, and if you're in an older version of Windows, it might just simply have new folder in this first level of options here. So it depends on what version of Windows you're using. And actually right-clicking in a Mac can also give you a similar option. So I'm going to select folder, and it's put this new folder here on my desktop that I can then give a name. And you'll notice that the name is highlighted in blue. So anytime it's highlighted, that means we can type in that box. So I'm going to type in parent communication. And I'm going to click away onto my screen here to set that name for that folder. And then what I can do is I can simply drag by clicking with my left button on my mouse and holding that down and taking my mouse and sliding it over. And as soon as the parent communication folder is highlighted, like that, I can let go and it will drop it into that folder. If I have more than one file to select, I can click away and hold down the left button on my mouse and simply drag to select more than one at a time. And this is really helpful when you have a lot of documents that you want to move into a folder all at once. So now that I have those two highlighted, if I put my mouse over one of them and left click and drag, it will drag both of them down to that parent communication folder. Waiting until it's highlighted, let go, and they've moved into that folder. So now if I go and double click here to open that folder, you can see those three documents are sitting there waiting for me. So this illustrates how we put a folder on our desktop to move desktop documents into a folder to better organize them. In this session, I will show you how to organize your files that you have saved in your My Documents and how to create nested folders within My Documents to better organize your files so that they're easier to find. So in Windows, we start by clicking on the Windows button, or in the case of an older version of Windows, you would click on the Start button, and you would look for Documents or My Documents, depending on the version you're working with, and it will open up this Documents folder in your libraries, and you'll always know where you are based on what it's showing up in this window here. So in My Documents, I've got a list of files here that are really in no particular order. They're just listed here, not grouped by any topic. And in the last tutorial, I showed you how to create a folder on your desktop by topic to better organize these. And we're going to do the same thing in our My Documents folder based on the topic of these files. So I've got a class list here, a grade book, a couple sets of lesson plans from 2 different years, my first day of school plans, and my milestones. So it looks like I have a couple of themes or topics here that I could group these by. The first one I'm seeing is grading, as well as reports, some sort of a report card from my milestones. So I'm going to first create a folder for grading and reports. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did on my desktop in the previous tutorial, just by placing my mouse kind of over in this white area on the side. I'm going to right click with my mouse, and you can go down to New, and then over and up to Folder. And if we click on Folder, it's going to put a new folder here, and again it's highlighted in the box so that we'll be able to give it a name. So I'm going to give this folder the name Grading and Student Reports. I'm going to click away to set the name on that, and it's going to put it up alphabetically with some other folders that I have here on in my Documents. So everything will be in alphabetical order, which also makes it easier to find your folders once you've created them. So just as before on my desktop, I could click and drag the files into the new folder that I created. It works the same in my Documents. So I'm going to find my first gradebook here. I'm going to click once on it, and I'm going to hold down the left button on my mouse, and I'm going to find the Grading and Student Reports, and when it is highlighted, I'm going to let go of my left button on my mouse, and it moves that document into that folder. I'm going to do the same with my milestones because that's a student report. So I'm going to click and drag that up into the Student Reports and Grading folder just by highlighting and letting go. So now when I double click on that Grading and Student Reports with my left button on my mouse, you'll see the milestones and the gradebook sitting waiting for me in that folder. I'm going to click on my back button to go back one level to where I was, and I'm going to see what else I can create here. So I have some lesson plans and a class list and my first day of school plan. So it looks like I have 3 files here that could fit in the category of lesson plans. So I can either right click as I did before, or you'll notice up at the top there's actually a feature that says New Folder. In the older versions of Windows, it actually has File up on the left hand side here where you can click and drop down and it will say New Folder. So those are 2 other ways, or another way that you could find how to do a new folder within your My Documents. But I'm going to stick with the right clicking because that's just what I prefer. Click on Folder, and here it puts a new folder in for me to give a name, and I'm going to simply name that Lesson Plans. Click away to set the name, so I'm clicking away in the white space to set that. And here's my Lesson Plans folder. So I actually have 3 documents here that I need to move, and instead of moving one at a time, I'm going to show you a little trick that helps you move more documents at once. So if I click just once with my left button on my mouse on that first document, I can hold down Control while I click on the others with the left button on my mouse, and you can see it highlights all 3 at the same time. So now if I click on one of them with the left button and drag, you'll notice that it has a W with a 3, which indicates that I have 3 files there that I'm moving. And I'm going to drag that up until the lesson plan folder is highlighted and let go, and instantly it moves all 3 of those files into my lesson plans folder. So now that I've moved most of the documents that I have here in my Documents into both the lesson plans and the Grading and Student Reports folders that I created, I have this one still hanging out down here, Class List. And I actually like to put all my class lists and any other documents that are related to classroom procedures in a folder called Classroom Procedures. So I'm going to go up and try the New Folder button to create a new folder that's called Classroom Procedures. Clicking away in the white space here, just with my left button to set that name. Here it is, Classroom Procedures, alphabetically in order with some of the other folders that I have. And I'm going to click that one lonely little file there with my left button and drag that up to Classroom Procedures. So now I've moved all of those files that were hanging out in no particular order into usable folders where that I can easily find them for future use. Now out here on my desktop, I still have several documents that are just sitting here that could use a home. So I've got some addition notes, multi-digit multiplication, addition word problems, and then some multiplication word problems. So it looks like these are related to math activities for the classroom for student use. And I've got kind of 2 different topics here within math. So what I like to do is to create a general classroom activities folder. So if I right click within my Documents, I can click on New Folder, and I'm going to create a folder that's called Classroom Activities. Now I could just drag those files that I have sitting out here into my Classroom Activities folder. That's one way of getting them into that file. And since they're on my desktop, I can either click with my left button on my mouse and hold down that Control key to select each one and highlight all 4 together. Now they're all highlighted and I could move them. Or I can click away and I could highlight them just by clicking and dragging over all of them. So 2 different ways that I could highlight all of those at once. And I'm going to click and drag those into the Classroom Activities folder. Classroom Activities is highlighted. I let go of my mouse and it moved them right off my desktop into the Classroom Activities folder. Now if I open that folder up, you'll notice that all 4 of the documents are there. We're in my Libraries, Documents, and Classroom Activities. Now if I were to open Classroom Activities and I were to have several different activities in here ranging from reading to writing, math, social studies, I would want to maybe group those so that I could separate them even more within the Classroom Activities folder. So right now, all of the ones that I have here are for math. So I'm going to right click within my Classroom Activities folder and create a new folder that's going to be nested within the Classroom Activities folder, just for math. So this one's going to be titled Math. And I'm going to click away to set that name. And now you'll notice that I've got a folder that's sitting inside of my Classroom Activities folder. So if you can kind of think of it like a file cabinet for paper files, if you open up that file cabinet, being My Documents, and you've got several hanging file folders in there, and in this case, Classroom Activities is our file folder. Within Classroom Activities file folder, we could have several manila envelopes that are for the different subject areas that we would possibly have for Classroom Activities. So this math folder is just waiting for all of my math activities. So I can click, and since all of these are right next to each other, I can either hold down Control and select each one separately, or another trick that you can do is when you've got several files all in a row that you want to highlight, you can left click on the first one and then hold down the Shift key and click on the last one, and it highlights everything in between the first and the last file that you clicked. Kind of a nice feature. So I'm going to click and move those into math. And now if I open up this math folder, you can see the path that I followed in Libraries, Documents, Classroom Activities, and now Math. Now within math, I have 2 different topics of math that I want to separate even further. I have addition and multiplication. So I'm going to create a new folder for each one of those topics. Clicking away and create another one for multiplication. Clicking away. So now I can select addition notes, hold down Control, select addition word problems, and move both of those into addition. And I can do the same for multiplication. Click on the notes, hold down Control, click on the word problems, click and drag into multiplication. So now within my Classroom Activities, I have a math folder, and within that math folder, I have addition and multiplication. So I can easily, when I want to find that multiplication word problem worksheet, simply follow that path and I'll know where to find what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to click back on the back button, back out to my Documents, and within Classroom Activities, I'm going to open that back up. And I've got math here. I might as well go ahead and create those other subject areas that I know I'm going to create files for eventually. So I can right click, again click on New Folder, and I might as well create one for reading. I'm going to click away to set that. And I'm going to click on New Folder and go ahead and type in writing and click away to set that. And now I have 3 different folders that are sitting here waiting for me when I'm ready to create files for them so that I can easily organize them and be able to find them later. Now I still have this parent communications folder that's sitting out here on my desktop, and it would be best to move it into my documents. So I'm going to click and drag that into the white space of my documents and let go. And you'll notice it went ahead and put that right in alphabetical order. Thank you for joining me for today for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful.